Very pleased to be on this first online social entrepreneurship conference that you've organized, and again, thank you for having me. Quick backgrounder, I have been an entrepreneur most of my life, even back when it wasn't very popular, and I would say really shifted that orientation to social entrepreneurship probably near the tail end of my experience with Home Grocer. As you know, the company was a rapid growth early development company of the .com boom, and so when I came out of that and started thinking about what to do next, I was looking for something that would be both commercially exciting, but also equally impactful from a social development dimension. And the whole idea of, doing something for society, putting something back. And so I was looking for big, game-changing type projects that I could apply my resources and efforts against. The company that you mentioned, Recipco Capacity Exchange, is actually very soon going to be known, and this is really not anything we've released yet, but it's not something that's of such a critical, confidential nature, but it is going to become known as Pure Exchange. And the whole premise behind it is that the world is in desperate need of a more inclusive, more fair, and more just mechanism, economic mechanism, for how value can be exchanged between people and organizations. And so the premise of doing that really means rethinking the whole global economic architecture and starting to look at what could be done better. And it's fascinating that the world of global economics has been constrained in really realizing the kind of evolution that you've seen, for example, in the technology world. And in part, this is a limitation of the system and the way it evolved. And I'm talking particularly about the global monetary system, which actually, upon closer inspection, is not even a global monetary system. It's a monetary system of 178 independent sovereign monetary systems, which in itself creates all kinds of inefficiencies and, well, many serious and systemic issues that the world has been facing and that are showing up in a prominent way in the last few years since the most recent economic downturn. And so, we started thinking about how you could come at this a little differently and rethink really money, because money, in fact, has changed in its character over time. In the very beginning days, money had a very specific role. It was to serve as a medium of exchange and a unit of account. And so it was not valuable. It was things like shells and tokens and tally sticks, and these were really just to be a unit of account so that people didn't have to do, direct bilateral barters where you have the problem of a double coincidence of wants, meaning, you have to have what the other party wants, and the other party has to want what you have in the right quantity at the right time. So that just simply isn't scalable. And various concepts, emerged to solve that. First was just the creation of marketplace congregate as, and so you end up doing, instead of one-to-one, traditional barter trades, you're doing multi, one-to-many or many-to-one kind of swaps or trades. But the real solution was, of course, the invention of money. But money has become, we call it corrupted. And we don't mean corruption that surrounds money. We mean that it's corrupt because it doesn't really work the way it was intended to work anymore. And this was, in our view, largely due to the character change of money in that it became valuable. When it shifted from being things like shells and non-valuable things to gold and silver and precious metals and stuff. You put it in behind the guards of the king's castle, and the goldsmiths would manage it and issue certificates. And of course, very few people ever came to get the gold, so they started to issue more certificates, and there was gold, which was the beginning of fractional banking, interest, and started to lend the money, make money off money. And of course, it's just in the last few hundred years, the evolution of the global exotic derivatives. That's really the core of what we're doing, is we're creating a new global economic architecture and a new concept of money.
Okay, thank you very much, James, for this introduction and for presenting the project. Can you tell us more how the project is advanced? Like how actually, when can we see it live?
So if you're creating a new economic architecture, the fundamental, the foundation for doing that is that it's a system that, as I was saying earlier, is more inclusive, more fair, more just. But it has to instill trust in people. They have to have confidence and trust, and they have to have faith that that is a system that they can count on. And so this effort of creating a mechanism that people would have trust and confidence in has taken us years of work, because it involves engaging a wide range of stakeholders, from large multinational governments to large leading governments of the world, large multinational corporations, institutional social development organizations like the UN, and a range of other stakeholders, academia, who really all ultimately should be a party to this kind of an effort, especially as it relates to governance. That's what we've been doing, and that's where our efforts have been focused. We've spent an extraordinary amount of money and years of effort. And we did the first trade, and the work has been mainly focused on big multinationals, because by having them backing and underpinning, a global unit of account in a global economic system, you have at least balance sheet economic horsepower as the core banking. But what happens very quickly thereafter, once you start to have that locked in, those foundation elements, it can move very rapidly on a viral basis to the communities globally, including even those in the emerging and developing world. So you'll start to see this happen probably by the end of this year. The company will be more visible in the coming months, but essentially with large corporates. But you will then see that start to going down their supply chain and right through to the social and emerging market organizations.
Can you share us about it, the idea, how it's going to work, or it is not the stage yet that we can learn?
Oh yeah, I can share the high level of it. So the basic premise is that when you exchange value, you are really just exchanging some kind of an asset for another type of asset. So we go back to the beginning days of commerce. You would trade, some beef, and in return you would take back some vegetables from a counterparty. And so an asset for an asset. And today, it's, if I buy your services and pay you in cash, well, you've given me services that are an asset, and I've given you cash, which is an asset. So what we're saying is that capacity is the real asset of any economy. Money has been able to be manipulated and fluctuates in some countries in extraordinary ranges because of not because of fundamentals, but because of market intervention. And so our system simply looks at where is real capacity. So if you own a small plot farmer in Africa who has all kinds of land, but no ability to realize the output of that land because you just don't have the money and the appropriate equipment, buy fertilizer, buy seed, and so on, to really actually realize the productive output. What we do is we look at the capacity and we say, okay, well, if capacity is money, then you can issue a unit of account. We call this a universal credit. And this universal credit can be issued where capacity exists, so now you don't have to match and do traditional old-fashioned barter. You actually go beyond what money how money operates today. So if you think of it in three phases, first we had, just bilateral barter trades. Then we had the invention of markets and money then was the medium that people would conduct commerce with. Money became corrupted and therefore separated from its original function of being a medium for trade. And we're saying what we're doing is essential things. One, account that people trust and confidence in because it's 100% backed and it's linked to real economy capacity. So therefore everybody who has capacity has money, independent of whether they're poor, rich, or in between. And then the second thing you do is you create a global marketplace where these capacities can be populated and traded. So that's the essence of the model. Those are the two main elements of it.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. That is very interesting. And we actually had a very interesting speaker as well, Bruce Cahan, who is setting up a Good Bank project. And he was also talking very similar things about you, that money actually is not serving the way as it should serve, and also trying to come up with a new kind of solution for a financial system and for a good bank that would be actually giving more sense. So I think that like such project connected to your project and then in general to social business might really add a lot of value to the world and can a lot of, like create a lot of jobs in the world and help us to solve crisis problems. What do you think about it?
Well, I mean, I agree completely with that, and there's many initiatives that are underway around the world that are looking at alternatives to the banking system, alternatives to the way money is lent, alternatives to money, alternatives to how value is exchanged. So there are a lot of initiatives when you, and the reason for this is people are they're becoming angry. They, not only is it that they're unhappy with the current system, and when you look at an absolutely fascinating development, started out of my hometown, interestingly enough, Vancouver, Canada, and by a simple ad that was placed that hit at the heart of issues that people were having around the economic system. If you look at the signs that were being displayed at many of these events that were organized and protests that had taken place, and I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, 3,400 cities in 6 weeks or something, a movement like that before. There were signs saying, the 1% is, has all the money, and it's the economic system is unfair, and I've got student loans I will never pay back, and I'll never own my own home, and it was all about economic injustice. And the thing is, it's difficult to understand why there is so much economic justice, but we think at the heart of it is the global monetary system and all of these initiatives that I was referring to that are going on, whether it be Good Bank or the myriad of others. There's a great opportunity, I think, for them to start to collaborate and bring their collective thinking around the creation of a new economic system. And we have been able to secure sponsorship and support from a number of governments, including the Chinese government and more recently the UK government. And to that end, we are going to be organizing a series of events to bring these like-minded stakeholders together under two different banners. One is the Future of Exchange, which will be bringing a coalition of stakeholders together who are concerned with these kinds of issues and are bringing innovation, new economic thinking to the table. And then the other one is under a banner called Beyond Money, which is really the pure social dimension of this initiative that we're doing in cooperation with the United Nations.
Perfect. And can you tell me, do you have any specific idea how this project can be actually connected to social business model?
Well, there's our view about this model, I think, really ties back to one of my great mentors who inspired me early on in our development, and this is a fellow by the name of Dee Hock, who was the founder of Visa, the credit card company. And Dee said to me when I told him about this initiative that we were onto something that has the potential of changing the world of commerce. And he said it has to, because it overcomes one of the main problems of commerce that is a function of sovereign currency. But he went on to say that you're going to have to be focused against one very important thing, and that is involving all relevant and affected stakeholders, none more dominant than any other, in matters of governance. So we have been spending years trying to think about how do you manifest such an altruistic idea and such an ideology to make that really possible. And so there really, in our view, isn't quite the right corporate structure in existence right now. We've been looking at things like the corps, and we've looked at, but we don't think any of them actually fit the ideal model. Probably the best structure for a long-term social development organization of this scale that crosses every border without having to set up separate companies and separate jurisdictions is probably something that's more like a commons or a cooperative structure. And so that's the structure we think that ultimately, you distribute the ownership or the governance ability to the widest number of people.
Okay, great. Because it's also very important when you create such a system that it's actually the ownership exactly is divided among many stakeholders. Yes, so we kind of guarantee the balance in this project. Exactly. Antoine, I would like to ask you to join as well. If you have any questions, please join and.
Yeah. Hello, James.
Hello.
And hello. And what we would like to know actually is, can you tell us a bit more about your organization, Recipco, and from the more execution implementation point of view? Like, how many are you in the organization right now? Exactly when did you start? And what were like the biggest issues you have to encounter in order to make your vision come true?
We started, the project was conceived in 1998. It was structured, organized over a following 4-year period where there was some initial research done in the general area. And then we spent about another 4 years after that engaging stakeholders and modeling. We assembled really an extraordinary world-class, a team of thought leaders in monetary economics, Nobel laureates, and we started to formulate a model of how you could actually do this, and then began engaging the large multinational corporations, which went on for about another 3 years. So, I mean, we've been at this in people who are formally engaged with Recipco right now. And we have a small core team here in London, since we made the decision to set up our global operating headquarters here. And that team is now about 10 people. And we expect that that's going to grow this year to about 120.
So you are basically launching it this year, and that's what you're saying. And we probably, as you say, we're gonna learn more about this project next month.
Yeah, we've done some first trade activity with Radisson Hotel, and yeah, you'll start to see some visibility. But I think, as I was alluding to earlier, the community, the market that we are really engaging right now is these large multinationals to ensure the economic underpinning of confidence and trust. And we will then, come end of the year, you'll start to see a lot more visibility, maybe as early as September. And then we're actually we're raising a substantial institutional funding, probably again around the end of the year, that will enterprise a considerable amount of capital to expand into emerging markets and really start to make a difference in those regions that are constrained from conducting commerce because they don't have money, but they have immense amounts of capacity. And during this period, there will be a community developed around the initiative where we will be getting many of the different stakeholders to participate, become engaged in the dialogue, become advocates for us in key markets. And we think we may even see somewhat of a almost kind of Occupy Wall Street movement start to emerge around this initiative because of the implications for social and economic development.
So you talk about financial resources you will need for your project. You also said that you are going to double your team. And which type of profile are you looking for to join you? We try to connect people, so maybe a lot of people listening to us right now will be interested in joining you. So maybe if you can tell us more with the profile you are looking for.
So because a new economic architecture really touches everybody, we will end up with a range of communities. The people we're looking for in the short term, I mean, long term, we'll touch every community and every sector, but this is still down the road. But we are inviting all kinds of different stakeholders to be involved. The kind of organizations that we want to, or the kind of individuals we want to enlist support from now are people who can drive the client development side, trade activity, analytics, do the analysis work, and crunch the numbers, the technology development, the whole arena of social engagement. So all of the different NGOs and nonprofit organizations. We are starting to do this through the United Nations. On February 7th, they hosted a big event called Beyond Money, which was under our banner, and a dozen of the large agencies of the UN participated. We expect to now expand that initiative into the Friends of the UN, but even go beyond that to all social purpose organizations who can use this as a whole new source of of capital, because if you take capacity and start mobilizing that for social good, think of it like in-kind donations on scale. And so, yeah, I mean, that gives some flavor of the kind of resources. Oh, I highlight one other important thing. I am highly interested in youth, young people. I mean, we have some of our key members of our team. We've got one young fellow, he's 19 years old, and he's kind of one of our most senior analysts. And he's driving a number of significant initiatives on analytics and doing an incredible job. And I'm absolutely, and continue to be absolutely impressed by the young people who know that, you know, they're inheriting this world, and they're willing and ready to roll their sleeves up and do what it takes. Unfortunately, the opportunities for employment just aren't out there. So I am particularly interested in empowering young people that can you know, benefit from just some basic mentorship, and then mobilize these extraordinary brains and the high levels of energy that they have.
So it's really good to hear, actually, because one of our original partners at Sensation is the SENS Alliance, which is like 26 business schools around the world. So I'm sure there will be a lot of students that will be interested in joining you, maybe this summer for an internship. You have to do one in Point. So why not Recipco, eh?
We would be highly interested in that.
That's great. And another question is, you said you spent like 4 years like establishing the principle of a new economic architecture. After 4 years enjoying talking, engaging stakeholders, and 3 years again with multinationals. And how is it like from technological infrastructure? Have you already developed it? Is it going to be everything fine, like a stock exchange? How does it work exactly? And how far are you?
Yeah, we did a lot of the technology development. We spent a couple $1 million of development almost 7 or 8 years ago. And then we did a kind of updating of that because technology changed. And what we've had for our system in a position where it will support our, you know, fundamental trade activities for the, you know, at least the foreseeable next 18 months, possibly even 2 years. And then we have another whole roadmap for what we see as the next phase of our technology development. So you know, there's been development going back some time that continued to be upgraded. And so we're in a position where we don't need to do technology development to do trades now, but we are interested in doing technology development for the next, you know, iteration as we begin scaling the enterprise.
Okay, great. And it is not like too confidential. Can you tell us a little bit more about your business model? What happens after there is like some exchange of capacity between two different stakeholders? And what will be your role as a company after that the model has been adopted by the different multinationals?
So you would have, well, I'll give you an example of if you want to grow your business. Yeah, every company that has a desire to grow their business, which is most every company, they have to build ahead of demand, right? So you build a hotel before you have the customers. You build a factory before you're using all that capacity. You put the telecom bandwidth in the ground for the next 25 years of projected demand. So everyone's building ahead of demand, and therefore they have inherently unused capacity. And every company is interested to sell that unused capacity. But the problem is there's always a finite a market for it. And so what happened in the case of Radisson Hotels is they had built capacity in China. We're very interested to try and find a way to sell it. I mean, they knew they would fill it over some years, but there was lots of unused capacity. And we entered the picture. They were very interested to buy a number of different things, media, for example, of hotel rooms. Now, the problem is the media company didn't want hotel rooms, so they couldn't do a trade, even though they both had assets. And Radisson had a demand. They had a need for media. And the media company very much wanted to sell media capacity to Radisson. we entered the picture. They became a member of our exchange. They committed that they would sell rooms, so their unused capacity through the exchange, in return for our universal credit. And then they turned around, they were able to use our universal credit to buy media. And when we went to the media company, of course, they were very, very interested to sell media to Radisson. They didn't want rooms, but when they looked at the construct of the universal credit and the fact that it was 100% backed and that it could be used to buy things that they wanted to buy, in their case it was printing, that trade took place that would not have otherwise occurred. Governments got their taxes, incremental value was created, and we received a transaction fee, which is 5%. And then that, in turn, a portion of that, 20% of the transaction fee goes into our foundation.
Perfect. Thank you, James, for this information, for sharing your project with us. We really appreciate it. As this is like a conference that is focusing on social institutes, but also trying to connect the students, we'll keep in touch with you regarding the involvement of our project and the students that are joining our project, and maybe we'll be able to actually promote the project as well, and challenge actually, because I think it's a big change as well in the mindset of people in terms of like trying first trying to understand the concept and challenging them if they would like to go and create a new thing. So this is something that I think many students would be interested to actually have even workshops or even kind of presentations about.
Well, I would just say if you have any of the students who are interested in this, wanting to visit us in London, we are located at Canary Wharf on the 39th floor of One Canada Square. And we have a fascinating facility there that can accommodate a couple hundred people in the theater structure. And I mean, we'd be delighted to host, a gathering of students. In fact, almost for certain, we'll do that in the coming months.
So for all participants, you have them, you can go and knock at his door as soon as possible. And then, maybe one last question. Actually, you have been a successful entrepreneur. You also are on a mission right now to change world economy, especially regarding money. Can you tell us what drives you exactly? What is where the passion comes from? And also, if you have one message, one advice for the future entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs, what will it be?
I think what drives me is making a difference and to be able to do it at scale. I mean, there are so many wonderful initiatives, and I meet these people. They bring literally tears to my eyes with the meaningful causes. But for me, it's to make change at extraordinary scale, because we have the tools to do that, and I've lived that with my previous venture, and I know that we can make a difference at scale, and that's really what I get empowered by. And I think the only lesson I think that I would like to impart for anyone who's building a social enterprise is, take the time and surround yourself with as many mentors that you possibly can, thought leaders who are also inspired by whatever your vision is, and bring those parties into the mix to help you, because that makes all the difference.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
welcome.
James, for joining this conference. It was great to listen to you and learn from you, and we'll be definitely looking at Recipco project, how it develops, and we stay in touch. And so thank you again, James, and I hope you enjoyed it.
My pleasure. All the best.
Thank you. All the best.
Bye.